Welcome. Welcome back. We appreciate you. Let's start off with some Zen breathing. You're walking through a forest. You hear the rain droplets. Can't hear that? All right, that's fine. You're now approaching the coast of a nice beach. And speaking of coast, welcome to another episode of Coast to Coast Sports. Do you see how I did that? I am clever. I do think of these things while I'm in the shower. Welcome back, guys. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us again for another episode of Coast to Coast Sports. As always, to the left of me, our boy John. And as always, to the right is not Will. As you can see, we got Sugar Shane Lee in the building. Best two guard in the league, known as many names. Catch him at Berliner Park Mondays, Wednesdays, hooping on fools, putting his nutsack on foreheads, dunking. You know how he does. And then, as always, behind the scenes, doing everything that we love and we appreciate, our boy Ryan. John, you got anything to say to people before we start?
So Eric's not here.
Are you going to do the quote?
I'll do a quote.
Okay,
I'll step up.
I'll
rise up. A man said this probably about 8 hours ago. Target sucks. No wiffle balls.
Wait, what's the quote? Is it Target sucks, no wiffle balls, or Target
just
sucks?
Target sucks.
End quote.
How do you not have wiffle balls? It's the start of June. It's
Maybe
summer.
Maybe that's why they're out.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Target does suck. I like Target, but
Target
not
sucks.
having wiffle balls means I'm not going to Target. Looks like I'm not going to Target. Remove me from the Target.
Yeah, America runs on wiffle ball.
And if Target doesn't have it, I can't run with Target. That's all I'm saying.
I just can't.
I'm gonna have to disagree. You know,
Oh.
Target's always the go-to move.
Target always goes.
You always walk in and you come out with something random.
That's
true.
true.
And you pay a lot of money. Then
I did
you
buy.
throw all your money.
I did buy a pack of baseball cards after I did.
Hey,
that.
See, there you go.
Hey,
not
speaking of baseball cards, shout out Card to Collector on Grove City Road over there.
Shout out.
Got my Tristan McKenzie autograph card from them. Guardians won today, so I thought it'd be fitting. Put them up at the forefront. Put our young gun, young ace, Tristan McKenzie, showing a little love. But Shane, before we start, you got anything to say to people? It's your first time on. Hopefully you'll come back again, but first time on. What do you got to say to people? You got anything to get off your chest?
No, thanks for having me. I guess that's first.
No.
That,
Thank you.
Thank
No.
you.
no.
We appreciate you.
Shout out to Kobe. Today was the 2-0. Is there anything to be happy about?
No.
Job not finished.
Yeah, job not finished. Job not finished. I don't think there's anything to be happy
I don't
about.
think it was.
I don't think.
Is there anything
So
to
shout
be
out
happy
Kobe.
about?
No.
No.
Job's not finished.
Job's not finished.
We should have Kobe on the podcast.
R.I.P.
Too soon. Too soon. He's dead. In case you
But
don't know.
shout out to Kobe. Though.
Shout out Kobe.
Dude, yeah.
Ryan, you got anything to say to people before we get started?
After that, I think I'm good. I can't talk.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. We did kind of come in dark, kind of did come in hot, but thank you, John. Yeah, thank you, John, for giving us the quote of the week. Eric, we miss you as always. Hopefully, we'll see him back next week. But let's get right into it. We're gonna pass on the NFL grades this week. Eric was texting me saying, "Hey, I really have some spicy takes for the Chargers, Broncos, Chiefs, Raiders division. Please, for love of all things good, don't do grades." And I said, "You know what, Will? I'll do that. We will honor that."
We took one for the team.
So we're like,
These
let's
are important business meeting.
important business meeting night. So I was like, you know what? Better to replace him. Let's bring in high school legend,
High school legend.
collegiate athlete legend at Heidelberg. Go Fighting Princes,
Student Princess.
student Princes. Started.
Yep.
Jeez.
Basketball aficionado, Shane. I was like, let's bring him on. He knows because I don't know if you've heard, NBA Finals are going on.
They are.
Series tied 1-1. I did not see the first game happening. The Celtics stealing it the way that they did.
Well, they're the balls.
But the Celtics are the balls, and there's no other reason why.
Yeah.
But series tied 1-1, so let's talk some finals, and we'll just get into it. So, first two games under the belt, heading back to Boston. I would say the advantage is probably favoring the Celtics here. You have to think now that they have quote-unquote home court advantage. Do we think this is favoring the Celtics more than what we were giving them credit for at the start? I mean, I know you said Celtics in 7, correct?
And in 6.
You said Celtics in 6. So, I mean, that has to feel pretty good. Your pick's got to be feeling your oats right now. What do you think? Does this favor the Celtics more than anything now or what?
I mean, yeah, going back to Boston, you stole one in Golden State. That's huge, especially in the NBA Finals. They had a good start to Game 2. Some ref show.
Yeah.
Probably didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. I think Golden State still wins that game. But it's huge going back.
Yeah, I think
1-1.
the big thing that a lot of people weren't talking about is the Warriors were undefeated at home this year in the playoffs. Hadn't lost a single game all season in the postseason. Celtics go and steal not only the first game, but probably arguably one of the most important games because I think the Warriors, when they win the first game of a series, they're like 17-2 or 17-1 when they win the first game of a series. And the one I think is LeBron and the Cavs.
I mean,
So that is the fact. But you gotta feel, Shane, that the favoring has got to be tilted toward the Celtics here more than the Warriors, right?
I don't know. I mean, the Warriors, just looking at it, they're just a championship caliber team. So they've been there. They've got the experience. Their core is just super tight. So, I mean, you can't really beat that. And Celtics, I think they definitely have an advantage, too, with a lot of the young guys that they have. But I think right now the Warriors are just kind of scoping it out, just kind of getting a feel for the series. I think that's why they dropped that first game. I knew that Celtics are at least going to get one out of the mix, out of those games out in Golden State. But I don't know. The Warriors are just the Warriors.
The Warriors will not die. We said that last week, and we
died.
still stay
Yeah.
with it. You thought 2 seasons in a row, not really in the playoff picture, not in the finals. You're like, oh, the Warriors officially are dead. They're back in it. Everybody hates it. But when you look at 123 finals games compared to 0, you had to think it was going to favor the Warriors. And that's why I said the Warriors in 5, personally. I figure the Warriors are going to walk in. I still think the Warriors could do it. I think it's really hard to win 4 in a row now. Well, now 3 in a row. But I think it is really hard to do that. But, at the end of the day, it is, what it is. And I think the Warriors can still pull it out because they have that experience. They have that willpower. But I think, John, you touched on it best. When you said the ref play showed up, I think that's going to be the benefactor of this whole series, right? So if the refs are going to allow these guys to basically mug each other and be a bloodbath, then it has to favor the Warriors, right?
I mean, Draymond Green was killing a guy out there.
Draymond Green was playing fullback.
Yeah.
I wish I had the clip and we could show it, but of him literally just taking 3 people out. I believe it was Smart, Horford, and then White were all being switched, and he just took out all 3 by literally running through them.
It
So
was just like a snowplow. Just plowing
Right.
all that snow out of the streets and roads.
I just can't believe that he got to play, but the referee, like I mentioned in last series against the Celtics in the Heat, has just been so wildly inconsistent. And I feel like if the referees allow this physicality to play, you have to think it favors the Warriors here, right?
Excuse me. Yeah. I mean, sorry, this has a nipple on it.
Hey, it's all right. It's all right.
It's a little loose. Yeah. I mean, I think this definitely is playing into the favor of the Warriors. I haven't watched a single game this finals, so kind of hard to tell. But just watching the highlights and everything, and hearing what's going on with Draymond, just out there being a fullback, kind of getting sloppy. But I think once they go to Boston, the series will start to turn around a little bit. I think that the Celtics do have an advantage at home, so they might take one of the games. But still, you still have to go back to Golden State. That's a tough environment.
Potentially twice.
Yep. And then, I mean, depending on how they extend it out, Klay Thompson, Game 6.
Ain't nothing better. Ain't
Lights
nothing
out.
better. And especially if the freaking Celtics decide to get Scott Foster on one of those games. I mentioned it last week. They're undefeated, Scott Foster, when he's the lead official.
They are.
John, teetering back to Boston, official play. Do you think they're going to start loosening the reins again, letting them just play, or do you think they're going to tighten it up? I mean, do you think that this loose officiating advantages Boston or the Warriors more? Talk to me. Give me a little insight here.
Typically it does favor the Warriors. They do their flops, they do their little show. But the massholes up in Massachusetts.
They're going to give it to them.
They're massholes.
Yeah.
They're going to be riding those refs. They're going to be right up on them. Might give them a couple calls up in Boston. So one of the better home court advantages in the NBA is Boston. It is hard to beat the Warriors' experience. It is.
Yeah.
I was kind of saying Celtics in 6 more as a hope than an actual prediction.
Yeah.
But stealing game 1's huge there. So going back to Boston, I mean, we'll see. I think it'll favor the Warriors still. The ref call and just them being a better basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
But
yes. I mean, I agree. I still think the Celtics are undefeated after losing a game. So I would say go ahead and hammer the Celtics home, whatever that spread is. First game back, hammer that. I think they're still undefeated. When they lose a game, they win the next one, and actually they win it in pretty good fashion, especially when Jason Tatum loses. I think after a game, Jason Tatum averages 35, I want to say, after a loss. So whatever Jason Tatum's over is, hammer it. Whatever the Celtics, if they're the underdogs, hammer it. Basically mortgage your house, take out a second bank loan, put it on the C's, and the Celtics are the balls. They're probably going to win.
You need your mortgage loan. Lower.com.
Lower.com. I know a guy.
Lower.com.
I know a guy that works there.
Yeah.
And he's up here, and I'll give you a hint. It's not John, and it's not myself.
May know a few people.
But I think you definitely have to favor the Celtics here, especially. I think that the physical play will favor the Warriors with how well the Celtics get to the free throw line and how well they actually hit their free throws. You'd have to say favors the Celtics if they call it a little tighter than they do for the Warriors. So I definitely think the advantage is still in the Warriors' favor. Experience does win all. You have Steve Kerr. He's been there. He's done that. One as a player, one as a coach. Then you have a first-time coach, and with the Celtics. So it's really just honestly the polar opposites of all the experience versus none of the experience. And I think it'll be interesting to see who comes out on top.
I mean, if you think about it, though, the Celtics head coach, I mean, he has a good background, when he first started.
I think he spent 7 years with Pop.
Yeah,
right.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you get that championship experience mixed in there. Yeah, he may have bounced around to a few different teams, but now that he's landed his own team, he can kind of portray that and have his own kind of style within that. But, I don't know. I think that experience is definitely crucial.
Yeah, the C's definitely have that experience of a core group. I think Tatum, Smart, and Brown and Horford are probably the second most tenured group, probably behind the Warriors as a solid group of young guys that grew up together through the NBA. So I think that also does kind of flip, the advantage here. But I think it's all going to come down to the biggest case will just be, are the Warriors going to be allowed to play that free-flowing bully ball? And the Celtics going to just have to deal with it. And I think that's going to be the biggest case. But we're 2 games in. Biggest shock so far. Shane, biggest shock so far. What do you think it is? Or do you want me to softball it to John? Do you want me to go first?
You want me to go?
Oh, well, yeah.
Okay, right.
From the back. From the back.
Yeah, right. What's the biggest shock so far? Tiddlywink me.
I think the biggest shock so far, credit to the Celtics, was shooting almost 52% from the field in Game 1. That's why they won the game. Mm-hmm. And I think if they keep that up, granted, Game 2 is a struggle. I think it was dead even when it comes to field goal percentage. Game 2. If they keep that up, this series might go the distance. But if they can't, then
yeah, I think when it comes to a track meet, you have to favor the Warriors, right?
Oh, for sure.
If you're going to sit down and play steady defense, commit to the defensive end, I think you might have to favor the Celtics there as well. But biggest shock so far?
It is that fourth quarter in Game 1.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching the game at work. I got off work at 11. I was driving home. The Celtics were down 12. I put the game away.
Yeah,
I booked it. I was like,
might as well.
Warriors got it. They're in Golden State. I come home and I see that the Celtics had won by 12. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what happened. I know that the Celtics won. I'm very shocked that happened. I think that's probably the biggest shock out of the first 2 games was that fourth quarter in Game 1.
Yeah, and then we'll just work our way down. You mind if I go next?
You can go.
You mind if I go next? Yeah, you mind. I think the biggest shock for me is how poorly Jason Tatum has played. I know he had 28 points, I think. John, will you double check me on that?
Yeah.
I believe he had 28 points in the second game, in Game 2, and I think he led the Celtics in scoring.
Yeah, 28.
But that game wasn't close. If you watched that game, you sat down and you were thinking to yourself, oh, the Celtics can come back. You didn't watch the game. It's not even close. He filled up the stat sheet with 28 points, led this team. He was minus 36 on the court, which I believe was the worst on all the Celtics players. And he obviously was abysmal in Game 1, and they won Game 1. So, to me, the fact that Jason Tatum is supposed to be the guy for the Celtics, not necessarily the heart and soul. I'd say the heart and soul is probably Horford/Smart, but definitely supposed to be their best offensive prowess guy. Definitely supposed to be the guy that's supposed to carry the load in the front and the heavy work for him, and he is just underperformed in every aspect of the game. To me, when you have Marcus Smart outscoring you and outproducing you, that is an issue. Mm-hmm. When you have guys on the bench that have a better plus minus than you do, and you're supposed to be the face of the franchise now, that is not acceptable. Jason Tatum's a super young dude, and he's got a ton of great career left in him. But at the end of the day, you cannot play poorly in June and expect to win. It's that simple. So to me, that's the biggest shock I'm going to take away from is how poor Jason Tatum's played. We can get into Klay Thompson, and I don't want to steal, Shane's thunder. He might bring up Klay Thompson and how poorly he's played as well. But JT just needs to figure it out and step it up a bit. But Shane.
I mean, honestly, I have three. One's kind of small. Well, two of them are small. Is Gary Payton Jr. coming back? That was kind of a bit of a surprise to me, just given the fact that the Warriors kind of have their flow and their groove right now. That kind of it doesn't mess with the chemistry as much, but I think it's like one of those things that like you get somebody that's contributed quite a bit during the playoffs, and then during the final, he's missed a decent amount, comes back to the finals. Yeah. It's definitely a mix. Who else? Al Horford. I think that's the biggest takeaway for me is that game one, he went beast mode. That dude just
took over.
Literally looked like LeBron game 6 in Boston, right?
Right.
So, I mean, I think for me, that's the biggest surprise because I thought, honestly, Al Horford, he's washed up. He's done for his career. But, I mean, he's been a surprising factor within this whole series and playoffs, I think. Who's the other one? Oh, Klay Thompson. I think Klay, like you said, he's hasn't been the greatest, performance wise, but at the same time, given the fact that hasn't played in about 2 years, as well as
sorry,
as well as how many minutes he's played. I mean, I think he's averaging about 30 minutes per game after these last 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, if he's averaging that amount of minutes, that's definitely very impressive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, those are my biggest takeaways from there.
Yeah, and I think that'll be something that we should keep an eye on for not only all of our spicy takes that we have, but definitely the fact that Klay Thompson and Jason Tatum and Horford and you have all these intangible parts moving, and that what's going to be the the straw that breaks the camel's back, and who's going to be the most valuable. It'll definitely be an interesting series, and there's still a ton of basketball left. I believe I mentioned to John and everybody in the room before that Steph Curry right now is the current Finals MVP leader, with opening up against I believe Kevin Looney is third, Jordan Poole is second, and then you have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum bringing out the 4 and 5 spot. So I feel like the MVP voting is definitely favoring the Celtics winning. So Curry obviously is going to help out John's pick, Ryan's pick. Gonna hurt my pick as I have Klay Thompson. Yes. So he needs to figure it out. If it goes to game 6, maybe he caps it off and they pick him on a will. I don't know, but I think it'll be a really interesting MVP discussion because Steph did not look great no, he actually looked great in game 1. He was the one that he had 6 fucking threes. So yeah, he's looked good the whole series so far, but he does need to he needs to maintain that. Being good for 1 and 2 games is not winning you Finals MVP. So we'll see. But kind of touch base on this for the shock part, at least for me. Biggest letdown so far. Ryan, do you have a biggest letdown so far? You wanna chime in?
I think maybe not the both games,
mm-hmm.
but I think Jordan Poole's performance in game 1 was probably kind of what, and just their entire fourth quarter in general,
mm-hmm.
was probably the biggest letdown, at least for the Warriors, so far.
Yeah, I think that's a very good case there. I mean, they got outscored 44-16, I believe, in the final quarter. Was the final stat line on that?
16.
Yeah, 40-16. So that to me is pretty ridiculous stat in itself. But it is what it is. You're gonna have those. I mean, the Heat outscored the Celtics last series 32-16, and they ended up winning that game. So the Heat won. So you're gonna have those bad quarters. It's just how you handle it. But biggest letdown so far.
I'll stick towards the Celtics. In game 2, 3 of their 5 starters ended up with only 2 points.
Yeah.
That's bad.
Terrible.
You need help from Marcus Smart. You need help from Al Horford. And you need help from Robert Williams.
Mm-hmm.
You just do. That's unacceptable. You need to score more points than that. I know Tatum didn't play the best in game 2 either. He kind of padded those stats. But, I mean, Marcus Smart played 25 minutes, scored 2 points. Horford 28 minutes and only 2 points.
Yeah.
You need to be scoring more than
Yeah, especially. I agree.
that.
Do you have the
In
biggest
that third
biggest
quarter. That
biggest letdown so far?
Honestly, I'm gonna have to say Jordan Poole on this one because I mean, like you said, Ryan, he didn't play very well, and then I think he definitely made it up in game 2.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys made a great point too. Is just looking at these stats, it's like with the Celtics, it's like cool. You played 28 minutes and you scored 2 points as a starter. Not gonna cut it, especially in the finals. Like that, that is one thing. Like, it's almost mid-June. You're coming down to the wire, and this is for all the marbles.
Right.
You got to produce. But I would have to say Jordan Poole, but I think he'll bounce back for sure.
Mhm.
But I think that this definitely didn't help with that game 1 situation. So
Yeah, to me, the biggest letdown is, in fact, just the Celtics team as a whole. When you have your second best player in game 2, first of all, you go out, you steal game 1, and you do it great in an impressive fashion.
Mm-hmm.
But then you go back and you have all the momentum. I don't want to say you have the Warriors on the ropes, but you definitely are feeling your oats. You feel good about where you're at and who you are as a team. And then you go back for game 2, and you have your third best player is Derek White with 12 points.
Yeah. It's not good.
yeah.
And don't get me wrong, Derek White is a very, very solid defender. He's a solid defender. But when you have him, you can't rely on him to score. Jaylen Brown only having 17 points is an issue within itself. You need to have him 20 to 25 points every game, in my opinion. He's a lethal three-point shooter, and he gets the job done very well. But Horford, 2 points. Williams, 2 points. I don't even care if they score 2 points, but their production otherwise is abysmal.
Mm-hmm.
Just going off the stat sheets here, you got Horford, 1 assist. You got Marcus Smart, 1 assist, or 5 assists. I need more from all those guys. Williams, I'm not expecting to get assists. I need him to be a rim protector. Great, he had 2 blocks, but his rebounds were 2 rebounds. How the hell is Robert Williams, one of the tallest, probably the tallest guy in this series for both teams, only get you 2 rebounds? That's not going to get your job done. And then when you have other guys that are playing significantly less minutes and outscoring you, I mean, the fact that who the hell is this guy? Cornette he played 4 minutes, had 2 points. He had the same amount of points as Marcus Smart, Al Horford, and Rob Williams. And his name's Cornette, and he played. He got a certified bucket.
Bucket getter.
Hey, look at his plus minus. Plus minus, he's +5, higher than all the starters. So I just think that, to me, the biggest letdown is the Celtics' response to after you steal one game, the first game of the series, arguably one of the most important, and then you come back and you lay a goose egg like that. And they didn't even shoot like terrible. They were 38% from the field and 41% from 3. That's not awful.
Watching that game, though,
That's winning basketball.
30 for 80 field goal. Like, look at.
Oh, don't get me wrong. 30 for 8 is not great.
Compared to the Warriors, 45%, right? Like,
Yeah.
But I would say though, like, you have to at least be shooting 40%, like without a doubt, or you're close to it. But 37.5, like, it's not going to cut it.
Definitely not going to cut it.
And plus, I mean, the rebounds were just about the same too. So I mean, it's going to be a battle. But if you're shooting from the field at 37%, it's just abysmal.
And a lot of those rebounds were just off of their terrible shots in the paint.
Yeah.
They were just trying to force it in there, and they were bad passes. I know there were some they were trying to get people in transition, and the ball would just go out of bounds, or the Warriors would get it.
The best thing that the best thing that the Celtics need to do is what I call just schoolyard basketball. They need to get the ball out in transition and just play basketball. Don't slow it down. You should see how the percentages drop in advanced statistics when the Celtics take their shots later in the shot clock. Their shooting percentage plummets. It's not even close. Like the first 5 to 6 seconds in each shot clock, they're shooting phenomenal. They're scoring greatly. But when they take their time and get an offensive set, it plummets. And I wish I could just plaster all these statistics all over the world, all over the place for you guys, but I can't. So it's
Up early.
yeah. Don't yell at me.
Oh,
Don't yell at me. But I'm just saying, when you get those shots up early in the shot clock, and you get the defense, obviously the Warriors are not a joke on defense. They play good defense. If you get them out there and you get them in a defensive set, they're gonna play and they're gonna stick you well. But get out there, beat them down court, get a good shot up before anything gets set, and then go from there. But that's all right. That is what it is. Biggest letdown so far. It's not gonna affect the way I sleep tonight. I'm hoping this goes the distance, and I'm hoping we get a good series out of this as a whole. But do we still like the Celtics for you?
I mean, I wasn't really thinking with my head when I said Celtics in 6. I'm gonna stick with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna change
Because you're not.
That's just not who I am.
It's not in your blood.
It's not in your blood. You don't flip flop.
No, and I gave you Celtics in 7, and I gave you Warriors in 5 last round.
Nailed it.
I nailed
them
it.
both. I hate you nailed it both.
Yeah, sorry.
It's all right. It's whatever. This
That hurts.
fucking.
That hurts. How do you feel?
This fucking.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
I'm still upset about it. I'm still upset,
Okay.
but because we should be playing, but that's all right.
But Jimmy Butler's cool. It's kind of cool.
Jimmy Butler's great. All right, suck my ass. Do we still like the Celtics here?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the Celtics.
How many games? That's the real.
I'll stick with
question.
6. I said
you
5. I
or
said
6.
6.
I said Warriors in
You
5.
said
Yeah.
5. Yeah. Okay.
I'll stick with 6. I don't trust it. I'm expecting to be wrong here, if I'm being honest. But I'm not gonna change.
Hey, I respect that. Ryan, who did you like? We didn't get you last time.
Did
Did you like the Celtics or the
going
Warriors?
in, I had the Warriors in like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be. I thought maybe the Celtics get one game at home.
Mm-hmm.
I thought honestly it could have been a clean sweep.
Yeah.
Clean sweep.
Clean sweep.
Yeah.
Clean sweep.
Clean sweep.
The cleanest of sweeps.
Clean sweep.
Those are tongue twisters.
The thing that Mike didn't pick me up.
It's all right. You had a stroke halfway through it. And it happens to the best of us. We didn't get Shane. Obviously, he wasn't here. So did we like the Celtics or Warriors before the series started? Who'd you like?
Honestly, I was all in with the Warriors.
Uh-huh.
Even when they went to the conference finals, I think it was definitely the Warriors. So I'm still gonna stick with my guns and go with the Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
Now the games, on the other hand, that might be up in the air. So I think honestly, the way this whole playoff has gone, or playoffs, I should say, I'm gonna go Game 7, the Warriors.
Game 7 Warriors.
I think it's gonna be a close battle. With the Celtics, they've been playing really, really great defense, and then they've showed up when they needed to in certain games. But the Warriors at the same time, they have a lot of weapons.
Yeah.
But they've also been playing really good defense too. So you mix in both good defenses, and that's what's gonna win you games, right? That's what's gonna win you championships. And the Warriors just are a championship team.
100%.
Flat out.
Don't disagree with that. I believe it's still the Warriors for me. I think that instead of the 5, I have to change the 5. I said it was going to be a sweep, a gentleman's sweep of 5, going in 5. I'm going to change it. I'm going to say Warriors in 6 now.
Wow.
I am changing, flip-flopping just because of how poorly the Warriors played in that one. And it's hard to win 4 in a row. I don't give a shit of who you're playing, where you're playing, or how banged up or how healthy the team is. So I'm going to go 6 just because they stole 1 in Golden State. If the Warriors win the next 2 in Boston, I will be very shocked for that happening. Teams statistically don't play that well in Boston. Individual players do, i.e. Jimmy Butler played great in Boston. You look at Giannis, he played great in Boston. But teams as a whole, you need one person to take over. I love Steph Curry. I think he's a phenomenal shooter. He changed the game for the better. But he can't do that load. He can't be the guy that's going to go up there, give you 45 points, and then play lockdown defense like Giannis can, like Jimmy Butler can, like LeBron can. He's not going to be that guy. He's not that guy.
He's
not that guy. And you don't ask him to be that guy. You ask
No.
Draymond, you ask Kevin Looney, you ask Gary Payton, you ask Klay Thompson, you ask those guys to be the defensive hold. So team-wise, statistically, people don't play that well in Boston, especially this postseason. So I'm going to go ahead and say Warriors in 6, still sticking with my gun on the Warriors aspect, but I definitely think the Celtics are going to take a little bit of pride and a little bit of a moxie away from this first split in that first series. They have to be happy. You're heading home. Now they have home court advantage. They get the job done at home, they win the series. That simple.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of wraps up the NBA talk. We're moving into the 2-minute drill.
Mm-hmm.
Shorter episode, only NBA Finals.
I want to
Yeah.
bring something up before we.
Oh God,
This
fucking guy.
This guy.
Am I done?
Add one thing to the NBA.
Okay, back to the NBA talk.
All right.
Do we think this playoffs has been like a nice surprise of maybe like competition or how just watchability without, like the big names like LeBron, Durant, Giannis didn't make it that far
Yeah.
to where, a lot of the big names aren't there. We got Steph, but do you think I think it's been like a nice surprise how these playoffs have gone.
I would agree with you on that one. I think it's kind of been a toss-up because there for a while we thought the Grizzlies were definitely in the run, right?
Mhm,
We
mhm.
thought the Heat were definitely in the run with that. Obviously, the Heat and Grizzlies both made it to the conference finals, right? No.
Grizzlies lost to the Warriors.
Yep, Grizzlies lost to the Warriors, but that was a surprise that the Warriors ended up beating.
Yeah, I think the Grizzlies were favored going into that series, to be
Yeah.
completely honest, if I remember it opening up like that.
Exactly. So it was kind of a toss-up from the jump, and I think that was kind of the surprise there is that hey, we didn't really think that the Celtics were going to be there or
I sure as hell didn't.
the Warriors, but
Yeah.
I don't know if it's as entertaining. There's definitely been some highlights throughout the playoffs, but it's one of those things that you don't have like that superstar effect, and you're
Yeah.
like, man, like I don't know. It's definitely awesome.
I think it depends on a few things. I think if you're talking about a non-NBA aficionado, I would say it's not refreshing because you want to just sit down and watch the people that you know play. So you want to watch Kevin Durant. You want to watch LeBron James. You want to watch Steph Curry and those guys. If you don't have people that you don't know playing, then people that aren't NBA fans don't really care. And that's fine. I get that. It's the same thing with any sport. If Tom Brady's not playing the Super Bowl and a person that doesn't really give a shit about the NFL, they probably won't really care who plays in the Super Bowl. Or they don't. Same thing with the MLB. If you don't have the best players, or in college basketball, if you don't have Duke, North Carolina, shout out North Carolina,
Hey, shout out Tar Heels.
Tar Heel Nation. If you don't have those blue bloods in the Final Four, I mean, I think the Final Four a few years ago was like one of the lowest watched Final Fours in basketball history when it was Texas Tech, Virginia.
I think South Carolina was in there that
Yeah,
year.
so it was like an odd Final Four. You had no blue chips in it except maybe one. I think Gonzaga made it or whatever, or it was Villanova. One of those.
Oregon made a Final Four not too long.
Yeah, so whatever that Final Four was, correct me where, but that was like one of the lowest watched Final Fours in the history, in recent history. Now you go flash forward to this Final Four where you had Duke and North Carolina, Coach K's last ride. You have the rivalry. You have two teams that have been there, done that. Blue chip, blue blood tournament teams. That was like one of the most watched games in Final Four history, right? So I think it just depends on what you're looking for. To me, if my team loses, i.e. the Heat, and let's say LeBron was with the Cavs still, and the Cavs were playing, they're going through, I'd root for LeBron, the Cavs, hometown team, and I also like to root for the best players that are in basketball, i.e. LeBron or Kevin Durant. But I think it also depends on that love-hate you have with whatever team. Like when Kevin Durant was on the Warriors, nobody I knew that was a basketball fan was rooting for them. But people that are on that bandwagon, on that, hey, this is fun. They're winning a bunch of games and they're going to win the finals. Blah, blah, blah. Go Warriors, Dub Nation. So I think that you have your plus and minuses to it. I think that you do need dynasties. I think if the Grizzlies would have made this finals or the Suns made this finals, I think it would have been honestly one of the lowest watched finals, especially if the Heat made it. The Celtics obviously had a huge fan base and a huge following.
Yeah.
But if the Heat made it and it was like the Suns or the Heat and like the Grizzlies, I guarantee this would have been one of the lowest watched finals in NBA history. And you could argue in both of those series, none of them have a superstar playing. So I don't know what your take is on that, or how you feel about your O-Tone.
So it was very interesting up until a point where the Warriors just made the finals again. That kind of sucks. Not a fan.
It hurts the soul, doesn't it?
It does. We established this a couple weeks. Just
A little salt on the
Yeah, a little salt.
We established this as an anti-Warriors podcast.
This is an anti-Warriors podcast.
We do not like the Warriors.
Dubs down.
Dubs down. Yeah.
I'm not.
Guess I'm gonna leave.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
But yeah, it's a nice refresh. Would have been nice if the Cavs actually made the playoffs instead of the dumb play-in tournament.
Cavs made the playoffs.
Cavs made the
I'll die
playoffs,
on
but
that
they
hill.
did. But they did.
Cavaliers.
Yep. But it's been interesting to watch. Good to see some new teams in there. Besides the Warriors.
Yeah.
Screw that.
But fuck the Warriors.
Yeah, fuck the Warriors.
So I don't know if that answers your.
Auburn's that other Final Four team.
Oh, it's even worse.
Yeah.
It's even worse.
Yeah, because they had two
War-
SEC teams in it.
War Eagle?
War Eagle.
War Eagle. But yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. I kind of went a roundabout way of answering that, but hopefully that got it done.
Although I would say that I would love to see Chris Paul get a ring.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. I think that they're, I know Pat Beverly has a very different take on that.
Some people feel
That,
differently about
that he doesn't deserve it, or why does he deserve it more than Joe Schmo? But I think that when you've been on a team, and especially when you've been on the team of receiving unlucky injuries and untimely injuries, like I think the Heat would be in the finals if they didn't get. I think the Heat could have made the Lakers Game of 7 series when they made the finals with Bam and Dragic didn't get injured. And you didn't have to rely on Jimmy Butler playing 47 minutes by himself trying to carry that load.
Is that 5 games?
They lost in 6.
6?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's
So-
the same thing with.
So I think that you could argue that, this series, same thing too. If you don't have Tyler Hero, basically a 20-point bucket getter off the bench getting injured with his groin, and Kyle Lowry with his hamstring the entire postseason, you could play the what-if game the entire time. If the fucking Cavs didn't get injured at all, just got injured half the amount that they did this year, they would have been a 5 seed easily.
Oh, yeah.
And it wouldn't even been close. So they
5
would have played it. So, it definitely is a curious case of what ifs, but we can get in those all day.
It is
But
what it is.
Ryan, are you ready for me, Dad?
Alrighty.
All right. So what are we starting for? I see we have a graphic on the TV.
And we got one on here too.
Okay, so we got a graphic on the TV. What do we? So we're bringing.
We're
You
gonna
count
kick it off.
you
We're
count
gonna
me
kick it
down.
off.
Yeah.
All right. Countdown is starting. All right. So, which one of these classic MLB logos would you want to see come back in?
You want to go first?
Yeah, it's the Florida Marlins. I mean, the Miami Marlins just sounds weird. Give me the Florida Marlins.
Give me the Tigs. Roll Tigs. I love the old logo. Love the tiger. And I was up between the Pirates as well. Who do you like?
Oh man, this one's an interesting one. I honestly would have to say the Astros. Shout out. To
Shout out the
I just love the original star. I don't even know what the top one is.
That's the
end,
Mariners.
Forks down. I
Yeah,
guess.
that's the Mariners.
Usually Arizona State they say forks up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's all right. That's all right.
So
So
yeah.
what do we got next, Ryan? Lay it on me.
All right, next. Rafael Nadal, 14-0 at French Open, King of Clay.
Has to be. Undefeated. Can't beat it. He's definitely the king of clay. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know much about tennis, but
He's king of clay.
when
That's
the-
what you need to know. He's king of clay.
Watch out for me on the Wii tennis stuff.
Ooh, okay.
Get it
Yeah.
going. Get it going.
I don't want that smoke.
But yeah, Rafael Devers, best third baseman.
All right. June 4th was the 48th anniversary of the Cleveland Guardians.
Yeah.
10-cent beer night, but the game was canceled. Should they bring that back?
10-cent beer, 100% hammer it.
I mean, you need to implement this at the lower levels, test it out at
Triple A,
single
double A.
AA.
Check us out at the Clippers.
Preferably Columbus Clippers.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The Columbus Clippers, that
Ten-
Diamond Dog night. goes
Dime a dog,
crazy, man.
dime a glizzy, 10-cent beer night, undefeated.
This ship rocks.
This ship does rock. Ring your bell.
Ring your bells.
All right. Adam Silver is considering making the all NBA team position less. Right move going forward.
Positionless should have been at the case 5 years ago. Joel Embiid was second MVP and has been second in MVP the past 2 years, and now has been second team All NBA. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Fitzmagic is finally retired.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Will we miss?
Yes. You can't not have Fitzmagic in the NFL. It is a crime. Are we going to miss him? We got to miss him.
I'm gonna miss him, but I'm sure all of his sons will be playing one day. Doesn't he have like 20 kids?
No, that's Phil Rivers.
You're right.
Yeah.
Phil Rivers has like 10. I don't know if Fitzmagic does, but you're going to miss that beard. You have to. You got to miss Fitzmagic.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to. I was just hoping he's going to be on all 30-some teams, so that would have been great.
Just bounced around.
Yeah, just bounce around, literally, for each team. That would have been like, all
That'd
right,
have been
cool.
dope. Played for all my
Then I'd be like, okay, cool, it's time for you to retire.
Yeah, dope, whatever. But that's all right. But did we
That's all we got.
did we make
not
it?
make
We didn't make it. God damn it, Shane.
Mm.
I blame Shane. That's going to be our excuse for why we didn't make it this week. Are you okay with making that the excuse?
No, I'm gonna take the blame on this.
You're going to take the blame?
I
Okay.
talked too much about Rafael Devers.
But thank you so much, guys, for hanging out with us this week. We really do appreciate it. As always, like, subscribe, ring the bell, be a friend, tell a friend. We have a TikTok potentially coming down the works. We're going to get that set up for you guys, so we'll make sure we'll drop that in the link for you. As always, follow our Twitter page. Shane, you mind pointing to the Twitter page? It's right above you.
Right here.
All right, thank you so much. Before we go, once again, thank you, Shane. Hey, thanks, Shane.
Thank
Shane Lee popping in, dropping knowledge. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
We appreciate
No,
you.
appreciate
John,
you.
you got anything to say to the people before we let it go?
No, Target still sucks.
Target still sucked. Shane, you got anything to say to the people before we get to go?
Some sponsors, lower.com and HelloFresh that came in the boxes today.
Use the promo code Lee at checkout to enter 16 potential free meals.
Yep. Catch me at Burnliner as well. Came out of retirement. So
By the way, that Lee code will not work. Do not use it. Ryan, you got anything to say to people before we let him go?
No. I don't know.
You got no? Wow, fucking riveting stuff back there, bud.
Hey, Call of Duty, a lot of information dropping tomorrow.
Well, I got nothing else to say to you guys. We appreciate you hanging out. Go Astros. We'll see you next time. Peace.